Good afternoon. I'm Carolyn Rye, Chair of the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach. And at this time, we are convened here with the purpose of going into closed session before our informal meeting. And before we read the motion, I will ask our clerk to make note of who is in attendance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. President School Board Chamber is Chairwoman Rye, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Felton, Ms. Owens, Ms. Franklin, Ms. Hughes, Ms. Riggs, and Ms. Holtz.
Thank you. And one more note before reading the motion. Given the weather, at least at this end of the beach, there is the potential for some broadcasting issues. And if that's the case, we will postpone any portion of the public meetings until such time that those issues are resolved. So with that, Ms. Anderson, would you please read the motion to go into closed session?
Thank you. I move that the school board recess into a closed meeting pursuant to the exemptions from open meetings allowed by section 2.2-3711, part A, paragraphs 1, 3, 7, and 8 of the Code of Virginia, 1950, as amended for 1, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body, namely, A, employee grievance number 530-06-03-19 and petition for revocation of professional license number PGP-061790. B, appointment of citizen members to school board citizen advisory committees effective July 1st, 2021. C, approval of superintendent's appointment to serve on a regional board. 2, discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose or of the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, namely to discuss purchase of property from the U.S. Navy. 3, consultation with legal counsel regarding actual and probability litigation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mrs. Riggs. Okay. All in favor, kindly show by raising your hand.
Madam Chair, we have 8 ayes to go into closed.
All right, the motion is approved.
Madam Chair, if I can clarify for you, we read in for a number of closed session issues with the anticipation we'll get you through as much as you can before you need to start your informal session. If we don't finish it in informal session, you will read out, and then the next opportunity we go back into closed session, you'll read back in for the remaining items. We're anticipating that hopefully you can get through more than just one item at a time, but that's why you read in that many. We'll read you back in depending what's left over later in the meeting.
Thank you for that clarity for the benefit of everyone. Okay. We will be back in session 4 o'clock, weather permitting, for our informal meeting.
I
to read out of closed session.
Whereas the school board of the city of Virginia Beach has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the school board of the city of Virginia Beach hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and two, only such public business matters
Motion?
that was the motion.
Okay, and a second, Mrs. Holtz. Okay, all in favor, all in consent, if you approve, please raise your hand.
Madam Chair, we have 8 ayes. It does approve.
Okay, thank you. So now I will proceed to convene this workshop. Again, Carolyn Rice, School Board Chair. This workshop of the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach is hereby convened at 4:00 p.m. on this 22nd day of June 2021. Pursuant to the state of emergency related to the COVID-19 pandemic, the governor's executive orders, the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended by the Virginia General Assembly, and the school board's April 7th, 2020 emergency resolution, the school board and selected staff members will meet in person at the school administration building. However, at this time, the school board has determined it impractical and unsafe to allow full capacity seating in school board chambers. For this June 22nd, 2021 school board meeting, limited public seating has been made available on a first-come, first-served basis beginning shortly before the workshop session of the meeting. Members of the public will, also, as always, be able to observe this meeting through live streaming on vbschools.com, broadcast on VBTV Channel 47, and on Zoom. It's the school board protocol to break at 5:30 to prepare for the regular meeting at 6 o'clock. By 5:30, we will conclude our informal meeting unless the school board votes to continue, and that will continue no later than 5:45 to allow the school board and school administration to prepare for the regular meeting at 6 o'clock. With that, Madam Clerk, would you please announce those school board members in attendance?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Present in School Board chambers are Chairwoman Rye, Mrs. Anderson, Ms. Felton, Ms. Franklin, Ms. Holtz, Ms. Hughes, Ms. Owens, and Ms. Riggs.
Thank you, and we have Mrs. Manning, who is away with family on a mission trip. Mrs. Melnick is out of state with family, and Mrs. Weems is out of state with some opioid presentations planned. So with that, we will start with school admin matters and reports, and I have 2 to share. Just to bring to the attention of my colleagues in your pony envelope, this is the school board evaluation instrument developed by Governance Committee, and you will get a follow-up email from me with instructions on completion and transmission. The goal is to complete this in advance of the retreat, provided in advance to our facilitator, and that'll be through confidential means. And so that. And we'll also have our members absent. I've already made, in most cases, individual arrangements with them. The other matter of admin business from me is we were asked at the last meeting to provide a school board representative for the Alaskan Road Annex RFP working group. So Mrs. Felton will be our representative, and again, the purpose of this working group is to advise the superintendent on the sale of the Alaskan Annex property so he can bring a recommendation to the school board. Are there anyone else with any admin matters to report? Mrs. Hughes.
Okay, it's been a while since I've worked one of these. I have had several constituents send emails and reach out regarding reading lists that are being recommended for grade levels, and I wanted to see if we could, while we're here for the public, let them know where they could find those.
Can we ask you, I mean, unless there's an immediate answer, can we ask you to follow up?
Certainly.
Dr. Rogers, would you like Mrs. Hughes to follow up with you?
Okay.
That would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, colleagues, then with that, we'll go to agenda item B, our 2021-22 plan update. And we'll begin with Dr. Don Robertson, our Chief of Staff. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Ryan, members of the board, Dr. Spence. I'm Don Robertson, the Chief of Staff, and I'll be joined tonight by Dr. Kip Rogers, Chief Academic Officer, and Jack Freeman, Chief Operations Officer. The purpose of this presentation is for me to turn on the mic, is to provide a brief update, that was levity there, on the work of the let me do this again. Purpose of this presentation is to provide a brief update on the work of the Virtual Learning Center and to share additional planning information for next year to include the work of teaching and learning, school division services, and communications and community engagement. As you can see, this afternoon's presentation will focus on several areas that we have here noted on the slide. Before we proceed with planning information for next year, I want to take just a moment to highlight the outstanding work done this past year as part of the Virtual Learning Center. I'll be providing the board under separate copy with a memo and supporting documents later, and believe you'll be very pleased with what we were able to accomplish for these students, families, and staff that participated in the Virtual Learning Center this year. Of note, we had 2,449 students that participated in the VLC this year at the secondary level in terms 1 and 2. Recall, elementary students were served as part of a homeschool partnership with a neighboring school. In term 2, VLC leadership, in consultation with the Departments of School Leadership and Teaching and Learning, decided to offer any student who failed either English or math in term 1 an immediate opportunity in term 2 to retake this course as part of a recovery program. This program, similar to the summer program for students that are taking a course over, was specifically developed to be taught in the Zero Bell, which is prior to school beginning, by Virginia Beach City Public Schools teachers that were paid through CARES Act funding. 671 students participated and completed their work in one of the 3 session periods, with 82% earning a passing grade, thus eliminating the need for them to retake the course over the summer or in the next school year. In the supporting documentation that will accompany the memo, you'll find more information for which I'm sure you'll be proud. Now let's move our attention to planning for school year 21-22. And I wanted to start again with 3 key commitments. And they are, we will be in-person learning 5 days per week. We will have a fully virtual and a fully in-person learning option available. And we will have a range of student extracurricular activities offered in middle school and in high school. Before I go any further, it's important to state that we still have no idea how the governor, the Virginia Department of Education, and the CDC will proceed in terms of providing school divisions with recommendations or requirements for reopening schools in September. We do know that on June 30th, Governor's Executive Order 79 will end. Beyond that, it's only speculation as to what we believe will come next. As we have in Virginia Beach since March of 2020, our decisions will be guided by requirements from the Centers for Disease Control, the Governor's Office, the Virginia Department of Education, as well as guidance from the Virginia Department of Public Health and the Virginia Beach Department of Public Health. It would be inappropriate for us to make any statements at this time that could potentially be proven premature or incorrect as a result of a future order or directive from any of the aforementioned bodies. Now, this is not to say that we are not hopeful that many, if not all, of the current health and safety mitigations that were placed upon us as a result of COVID-19 will end, and our schools can return to a state with which they are very familiar. Until then, we will not speculate on how we will open schools. Recall in a previous school board workshop, I shared 2 scenarios for reopening that we will be prepared for as we approach September. The first scenario is where our collective hope lies for our students, staff, and community. The second scenario represents more closely where we finish this year. Now let's take a moment to dig a little deeper into each of these. So let's start with our most preferred scenario. If schools are opening without any physical distancing requirements, all schools are going to be open 5 days a week for in-person learning for those who choose. Our fully virtual option is through Virtual Virginia. We'll have a full slate of extracurricular programming at middle school and in high school. Middle school will be returning to their block and or bell schedule model that was used in those school buildings in 2019-20. High school will return to an A-B schedule with some 4x4 options available to meet student needs. In looking at the second scenario, you will see similar aspects to how we finished this year. As with any experience, we learn many lessons that can help us expand our offerings in a safe manner should we be faced with similar constraints next year. Even when if schools are required to open with physical distancing requirements, all schools will still be open 5 days a week for in-person learning. Well, our fully virtual option is through Virtual Virginia. We could possibly have a reduced slate of extracurricular programming at middle school and high school. High school had such a reduced slate this year. Middle schools will still return to their block and or bell schedule that they used in 2019-20, and high schools will return to the AB schedule again with some 4x4 options available. And I've noted some asterisks at the bottom that could be required as a result of opening schools with physical distancing requirements, which it could include additional learning cottages, i.e. portables. We could have to redeploy some staff to accommodate lower class size requirements, and we may have to have some instances of concurrent instruction. I thought you might be interested in see where we stand with our current students and their learning environment preference for next year. Of the over 65,000 students enrolled for next year, 1,149 or 1.8% have selected the fully virtual option, with over 64,000 or 98.2% choosing to return to fully in-person learning. And looking at specific subgroups of interest, we see a range of 0.9% of Caucasian students to 3.2% of Asian students choosing the fully virtual option through Virtual Virginia. What is not accounted for here in these numbers are new enrollees, homeschool families who are choosing to return to Virginia Beach. As of today, we have had 152 new students, homeschool students, have re-enrolled in Virginia Beach City Public Schools selecting a fully in-person option, and 4 students who have re-enrolled in Virginia Beach choosing Virtual Virginia. We will continue to collect this information over the next several weeks. And I will now turn this presentation over to Dr. Rogers.
Thank you, Dr. Robertson. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Rye, Vice Chair Melnick, school board members, and Dr. Spence. This afternoon, I will provide you with a high-level overview of where we are with summer learning opportunities for our students. If you remember at your February 23rd meeting, we shared details regarding our plans for summer learning opportunities for all of our students in grades kindergarten through 12 to address the unfinished learning and to get them closer to where we want them to be at the beginning of the 2021-22 school year. I'm pleased to share that as of yesterday, we had well over 10,500 students, as you see on the screen, who've registered for either summer school, Virginia Beach Digital Campus, Summer Learning Camp, or Summer Learning Boost courses. The 10,500 plus number does not include students who will take advantage of our Summer Learning Boost website lessons and activities to include the number of students who will participate in CARES-funded school-created summer learning tutoring and activities. The Summer Learning Boost for website for all will go live in early July, and in a moment I'll share a sample parent video that's used to support that resource. The summer learning camps are being held at 39 selected sites and will run from July 5th through the 28th. And in addition to providing all families with access to high-quality lessons via our Learning Boost website, I'll remind the board that all of our schools were provided with funds to support their entire school community if needed, with school-based learning engagements over the summer that school administrators have designed that are based on the needs that are specific to their students. Those activities might include things like additional tutoring, check-ins, or review of lessons that took place over the summer. We'll have an additional account of those numbers of students who participated in those site-based activities later during the summer. What you see in front of you provides the number of registrations for our Title I and non-Title I summer learning camps at the 39 sites, 15 of which are Title I sites, and 24 are non-Title I sites. And to date, we have 4,263 students who are registered in those summer learning camp programs. And before I transition to sharing secondary resources, I wanted to share with you a brief video that was created to support our parents in navigating the Summer Learning Boost website. So let's take a look.
Welcome. We are so glad you are interested in visiting our VB Summer Learning Boost website. This website is designed to provide all pre-K to 5 VB CPS students the opportunity to engage in meaningful learning activities aligned to essential standards throughout the summer. Each grade level classroom includes learning activities designed specifically to grade level standards and a variety of digital resources to support literacy, math, and inquiry. Here are some directions to help you and your child access this website located on our ClassLink Launchpad. To access the Virginia Beach Summer Learning Boost website from a school-issued Chromebook, first, power on the device to automatically see the ClassLink Launchpad login screen. Next, enter your 6-digit student number, also known as a PERM number, in the username field. Then, enter your network password in the password field and click Sign In. This password is case sensitive and is the same one used during the 2020-2021 school year. For help with your password, contact your child's school or call 263-1111. If your child is using a personal device or a device that is shared with family, this is another easy way to get the ClassLink Launchpad to find our Summer Learning Boost website. First, go to your school's webpage. A quick Google search will bring it up if needed. Next, hover over the Students tab and Student Resources. Then, select ClassLink Launchpad. On this login screen, you will see where to enter your 6-digit student number and password. Then, click the Sign In button. You are now in the ClassLink Launchpad. This is where you will see our digital resources and the link to our Summer Learning Boost website. To get started, click on the balloon of the grade level your child has just recently completed. These learning opportunities are set up for each of the 4 weeks in July, but will remain available through August. Let the summer learning fun begin.
So as you can see, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for all of our students to have learning opportunities over the summer. Now I'll transition to secondary. Commensurate to elementary, we have several summer opportunities for students at the secondary level, as shown on the slide in front of you. Summer school, including Virginia Beach Digital Campus, Summer Learning Boost courses, summer tutoring and learning for all at site-based locations, summer learning camp at our Title I school, reading intervention, as well as Title I STEM camp. Registration for those programs began on June 1st and will continue through tomorrow, June 23rd. And as of yesterday, over 4,800 students were registered for a summer learning opportunity. And you'll note that we have over 1,200 students in middle and high school who plan to take advantage of our summer boost courses in math and science. Nearly 1,000 of those students are in middle school. And again, registration for those programs started June 1 and will go through tomorrow. We continue to prepare to support all of our students who've chosen to participate in Virtual Virginia next year. And as was shared by Dr. Robertson earlier, we are planning to support 1,149 students next year through Virtual Virginia. In preparation, school staff have been meeting with students and families to enroll them in Virtual Virginia, and Virtual Virginia will contact registered students if they've not already, and families in order to welcome them to the Virtual Virginia platform. And in preparation of a seamless transition for our students and families into Virtual Virginia, we are utilizing CARES grant funds to provide several new positions to ensure that students are successful next year. The positions include a principal to not only assist with ensuring that Virtual Virginia is implemented successfully, but to also assist in planning for a more permanent virtual learning experience for all of our students in grades K through 12 beyond the 2021-22 school year. You'll notice that 3 school counselors will support students and their families. We also have 3 Virtual Virginia mentors who will work closely with Virtual Virginia staff as well as their families and will be monitoring student performance closely. We're also planning for 10 TEAs to assist in supporting literacy and numeracy for our students as well as our English language learners. We also have 1 ITS, which is our instructional technology specialist, who will provide instructional technology support to our students and families as needed. As far as next year is concerned, we started planning for the 2021-22 school year several months ago, and we continue to review and adjust our curriculum and instruction in order to address unfinished learning. And we do so with 2 goals in mind. The first of which is to focus on getting students to learn the most important ideas and skills more deeply. And the second is to teach. So those 2 goals in mind, we've planned to provide strong professional learning opportunities for our teachers, our administrators, and support staff to be better prepared 5 days a week in a face-to-face setting next year. Many of our students will be entering a traditional setting after having been out of school in a face-to-face setting for about 1.5 years when we come back in the fall. So our teams are focusing on making sure that we support their social and emotional well-being of students and staff alike to make sure that they have a successful 2021-22 school year. And now I'll turn the presentation over to Mr. Freeman.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rogers. So I'm going to refresh just a couple items that Dr. Robertson mentioned to you earlier because it sets up some of the things that we're going to do operationally. So we know that Executive Order 79 expires at the end of this month and that EO 79 did not contain any expectations for distancing. It focused on the wearing of masks. The expectations were that schools continue with mitigations that were already in place for the remainder of the 2020-21 school year. We continue our close partnership with the Virginia Beach Department of Public Health and others, and in our discussions, we continue to try and learn if there will be any sort of updated guidance. Historically, previous guidance was issued when the VDOE and our contacts within the Virginia Department of Health had little advanced knowledge of that new guidance. So that means it's not uncommon to, as we approach receiving new guidance, who have not heard anything yet. We'll continue to monitor any new guidance leading up to the end of the month and beyond. According to our contacts, it's likely that CDC recommendations will be our primary tool and that school boards will be given great latitude for mitigations and planning efforts. As further background, remember that face-to-face covering, distancing, that's 3 feet with a mask, 6 feet when masks were removed, enhanced cleaning protocols, and practicing good hand hygiene were important elements of our COVID mitigation strategy for this past year. Additionally, we had a sound contact tracing program. When a contact tracing program investigation was performed following a positive case in one of our buildings or programs, those individuals who were at less than 6 feet of distance from a positive person for more than 15 minutes in a 24-hour period were required to quarantine, and they still are for a 14-day period. The exception is for those individuals who are fully vaccinated and who are asymptomatic. They are not required to quarantine. We have no indication that this will change for next school year, so this standard will be important moving forward. We had cases this year where teachers and other employees did not need to quarantine because they were fully vaccinated. This helped with stability of instruction, and we also had cases where students and athletes did not need to quarantine, and they were also able to avoid disruption in their learning and their activities. As a reminder, we implemented all of these mitigations because COVID-19 was a new virus and there was no broadly available vaccine when we returned to school this past year. Well, now we have a broadly available vaccine, and the Pfizer vaccine has been available to students 12 years and older since May 10th. It was available at local mass vaccination clinics and other places like pharmacies and doctors' offices. To improve access for our students, we hosted Virginia Beach Department of Public Health-led vaccination clinics at our high schools in May and June. 1,431 students, a small number of these were staff, received both doses of the Pfizer vaccine, and after 2 weeks of receiving that second dose, they will be considered fully vaccinated. It's important to note, for the Pfizer vaccine, it takes 5 weeks to become fully vaccinated. 2 doses, 3 weeks apart, and then a 2-week period following the second dose to allow the body to adapt to the vaccine. Our next round of school-hosted Virginia Beach Department of Public Health-led vaccination clinics will begin on July 12th, as you can see in the chart. We selected 4 sites that are in different regions of the city. These schools were chosen to avoid conflicting with summer maintenance work and summer programs. These sites will run from 3:30 to 7:30 and will be open to all Virginia Beach City Public School students, their families, and staff. Both Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson will be offered to adults. Only the 2-dose Pfizer vaccine is authorized for those who are under the age of 18, so our students will be receiving the Pfizer vaccine. Those adult family members and adult and staff who would prefer the single-dose Johnson & Johnson may choose that option. The first communication to family will go out tonight with links that will enable them to sign up. Again, the goal of these clinics is to improve access. As always, we encourage families with questions to reach out to their healthcare providers. In addition to other considerations, families should understand the outcome of being fully vaccinated. If an asymptomatic, fully vaccinated student is identified during a contact tracing investigation, they will not be required to quarantine, and their face-to-face instruction, activities, and athletics can continue uninterrupted. The next level for potential approval of the Pfizer vaccine is for students 5 years of age and older, and we will continue to stay in close contact with the Virginia Beach Department of Public Health to monitor that progress. Given all of that background, we also want to ensure that we're ready to implement distancing if that is the guidance that we receive. We select elementary students and 2 per seat for secondary students. As we mentioned at the school board update on May 10th, we're also able to compress the bell schedule to achieve a 4:15 end of day for middle schools rather than the 4:30 end of day that was needed for this past. Other notable preparations, we continue our work to ensure that our HVAC systems function properly and deliver airflow as designed. This includes smaller preventative maintenance efforts. We also continue our recruiting and retention efforts for bus drivers and custodians. We still project that we'll be about 100 bus drivers short for next school year. We have 15 that are in the training pipeline right now. And just for context, there's typically about 30 that we are able to train during the course of an average summer. As previously discussed, we'll continue partnering with the Virginia Beach Department of Public Health to support access to the vaccine. In addition to these preparations, our communications and community engagement team will continue to provide updates through family letters, social media, and our website. And we will also work with the news media to share important updates. That concludes our brief, and we are prepared to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Colleagues? Okay, beginning with Ms. Owens.
Thank you. I just have two questions. The first one is about the buses, the transportation. In the upcoming school year, are we planning to continue the assigned seating to allow for contact tracing next school year?
That's the intention. Right now, we don't see any indication that the contact tracing program is going to change, so that helps out substantially with contact tracing, so yes.
Okay. And then my other question is about the immunization clinics that we're hosting in the schools. At this point, are they still only for students, and are we in any discussion to allow family members of the students to vaccinate at those clinics with their students to avoid them having to go to two different vaccination sites if those are the areas in their community already?
It's designed for students and their families.
So family members are able to, that's excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Oh, all right then. Thank you, gentlemen. So that brings us to the forecast of regular school board meeting agenda topics for fiscal year '22, the first quarter being July, August, September. Welcome back, Mr. Robertson.
Yes, I'm back. All right, and the mic's on. We're good. Okay, so what you have before you is the traditional forecast that we have for the next 3 months. You'll see that, of course, you've got your school board retreat, July 6th and 7th. There is an abridged meeting that evening, and right now there are no information items in that abridged meeting. There is action and consent with personnel report, please. We have a lot of administrators we're going to be bringing forward to you, and perhaps some PRC recommendations. We move to the 20th, and there are a couple of workshops. We'll come back to you with an update on plan updates, as well as a workshop on mental health task force. And the information item, the SEAC committee report will be given. And again, we have a personnel report and some action agendas with Laskin Road Annex project. Moving into August, you'll see, again, a workshop around the 2021 plan update as we continue to keep you engaged in our preparations for the school year. There'll also be a human resources staffing update. As you know, every school division across the country are battling on staffing updates for teachers, clerical, custodial, etc. So we want to update you at that point and let you know exactly where we are 3 weeks out from the start of school. On August 24th, we'll have a Department of School Division Services update. Mr. Freeman will package a couple of items into that presentation for you. And again, we'll have a plan update and also give you more information on our potential adoption of Canvas. You got a memo from me yesterday with some information related to Canvas, and we'll give you more information after we've had this time during the summer to get prepared with our pilot schools. The program evaluation schedule, which traditionally comes at that time, will also be in the August 24th meeting, and of course PRC recommendations. And then moving into September, by that time, we should have the equity assessment update prepared from Dr. Parrott. We'll have hopefully our final 2021-22 plan update because we will have already started school, and we'll be able to tell you, how our preparations manifested themselves in school. There's a budget calendar that Crystal Pate will be providing to you on September 14th. And then we move to the 28th. We're back around to the quarterly forecast for second quarter. There's a safe school update. Again, Mr. Freeman's team will come back and give you an update on where we are there. And then there are several information items from PIA and budget. So, Madam Chair, that's what I have. Any questions?
The only add-on, Madam Chair, is, typically at the retreat, we'll spend a little bit of time making sure that we cover any other topics that you may want to see on future quarterly forecasts. We've left a little bit of space on one or two of these dates if we need to fill in from the retreat.
Thank you. And of course, colleagues, if even between now and the retreat, if you think of anything, just reach out to you, Dr. Robertson.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else? All right, then, thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no further matters, Madam Chair, we'd suggested that you continue with the closed session. You'll need to read back into it. You have a number of matters that need to be handled during closed session tonight. If you can fit some of those in, it'll shorten your meeting later this evening.
Okay, so Ms. Anderson, please proceed with reading the motion.
I move that the school board recess into a closed meeting pursuant to the exemptions from open meetings allowed by section 2.2-3711, part A, paragraphs 1, 3, 7, and 8 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended for 1, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body, namely, A, employee grievance number 530-06-03-19, and petition for revocation of professional license number PGP-0617-940. B, appointment of citizen members to the Citizen Board Citizen Advisory Committees effective July 1st, 2021. And C, approval of superintendent's appointment to serve on a regional board. Number 2, discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose or of the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, namely to discuss purchase of property from the U.S. Navy. 3, consultation with legal counsel regarding actual and probably litigation.
Excuse me, is there a second? Mrs. Hughes. Okay, all in favor, show a raised hand, please.
We have 8 ayes to go into closed session.
Okay, and we will reconvene here in chambers at 6 o'clock with our formal meeting.